Doug had had enough BS to last him a lifetime, he was thinking, as he hastily packed up his pickup truck with the essentials he'd need to go up to his family's cabin for a few days. His wife, standing at the door, was crying. Her name was Shelby, but he'd always called her Bee. Even with her face puffy and streaks of mascara running over her cheeks, even though he didn't like her very much right now, he couldn't help but think that she was the most beautiful woman in the world. Her white linen dress, with thin straps, was draped over her body like it was made to be on her. It accentuated her hip bones, her stomach. Her long, thin arms, tanned from the summer, were wrapped around her tummy as if she were cold. Her feet, bare as usual. The first time he'd ever seen Bee, she was running in the woods right past his parents' cabin, and she was barefoot. 15 years old back then. Ripped jean shorts, long, thin legs with bony little knees. Her brown hair pinned up in a bun with dozens of pieces falling out. She stopped when she saw him. "Oh, hi! You scared me," she said and giggled, while pushing the hair from her eyes, taking down the bun and, like she'd done it 1,000 times before, gathering her hair up, twisting it, and stabbing 4 copper-colored bobby pins in. "Well," she began, "you're a quiet thing." She laughed. "Ain't you never seen a girl before?" she asked. He blushed, and from that moment on, they spent the entire summer together. 4 years later, they were married. Even though she'd spoken of her mother and father and grandparents and 4 brothers, Doug had never met them, not even once, and they didn't even attend the wedding. There were rumors, of course, from the locals, strange tales of the family. People called them inbred, said they raised pigs. Even looked like them pigs, others would say. "The mama is beautiful." "Oh, I heard she was kidnapped as a baby. I did," would say another. "Mm-hmm." His dad would nod. "I see." "And no one ever came looking for her?" he'd ask. "Oh, yeah, they did. They'd hide her in with the pigs. Even those cops know it's too dangerous to be getting in a pig coop. Them pigs will have you eaten in 5 minutes. So they're not even looking there." "Oh, uh-huh. They would, huh?" His daddy would nod again. "But they didn't eat the mama?" "Oh, no. They know better," said the woman with the crook in her pointer finger that she was shaking at them. "You go right ahead. You think I'm crazy. You'll see," she said. "You should keep that boy of yours away from that girl. She no good. She raised by them crazy folk. You lay down with dogs, you get up with fleas. She's as crazy as they are now." "All right," Doug's father would say. "Appreciate the warning. You have a good day now." And they would turn to leave. "She wants your baby, boy. You stay away from her." Doug would be lying if he said that that old woman hadn't creeped him out, and he'd be interested to see the family at the wedding, but nothing. Not one single family member came. "Where are you going to stay, Doug?" She was crying still. "I'm sorry. I really am," she was saying through her tears. "You know me. It's just my history. It's hard to forget all those things, you know?" Doug had found her in the bathroom holding a stuffed animal that she'd taken from the baby's crib and rubbing chicken blood on her belly. She was pregnant. He told her that he hated all that mumbo-jumbo backwoods shit. It freaked him out. It was all bull, and he didn't want his child around it. "I'm telling you, Shelby, I'm tired of it. I need a few damn days away. Get that crap out of my home. You haven't even seen your family in years. Since before we even got married. What's so hard about forgetting that batshit crazy stuff? I don't want no blood. I don't want no feathers. I don't want no dolls. I don't want you blowing herbs in my face. I don't want it in my house. I don't want it on the property. And I don't want no crazy around my child. I know, Doug, she cried. I'll work on it. I promise. Are you going to the cabin? What if there's an emergency? And she cradled her pregnant belly. Then call my cell, B, and get this crap out or we're done. He climbed into his truck and could see her standing on the front porch as he drove away. Great, he thought. It's going to rain. As he drove up the steep drive to the cabin, Doug was afraid his tires might get stuck in the mud, so he kept his foot nice and steady on the gas pedal. No gunning it and making a hole in the soaked earth. He knew that if he did that, it would suck the tire in and fill the hole back up. Stuff was like cement when it was wet. His wipers were swiping back and forth, and barely removing the rain. As he saw the cabin come into the view, he could have sworn that he'd seen someone standing on his porch and then jumping off to the left towards the tree line. But with the large drops of rain pounding down on his windshield, he really couldn't be sure. He finally drove up onto the gravel-covered part of the driveway and then right up to the large stairs that led to the door and the porch. The swing was banging up against the cabin, creating a terrible ruckus. Doug grabbed 2 large duffel bags in one hand, 2 grocery bags in the other. Those were filled with beer, candles, just in case, milk, cereal, bread, eggs, bacon, a newspaper, and a few more necessities. He struggled out of the truck and ran up the stairs, skipping 2 at a time, just like he did when he was a kid. He fumbled for the key under the cat planter, just as it had always been, and stepped inside. Brrr! He put his things down and shook the wet off him. He hung his coat, removed his boots, then instinctively walked over to the fireplace to light a fire, which is when he noticed that there was already a fire made, and a candle burning in a holder. It startled him. "Hello?" he called out. "Anyone here?" He thought back to see if he'd even seen a car outside, but he might not have in that rain. He had a large family, and he hadn't checked with his parents before he left to make sure that no one else was using the cabin this weekend. "Hello?" "Hey, it's me, Doug." There was no reply. He went to the kitchen, grabbed a piece of paper and a pen, and scribbled, "The Doug man has arrived. Please do not shoot, stab, or sick your young child on me." Then he grabbed what was closest, duct tape, and taped it outside on the door, inside the glass screen door. He barely stopped to wonder why they would have left the cabin in a storm, with a candle burning. Hey, could that have been who I saw on the porch? He wondered, and then that passed quickly as he unpacked. He took the bedroom downstairs. Didn't look like anyone else had things in there. He unpacked his groceries and noticed that there wasn't any food in the fridge. There was beer, though, so maybe a single family member? The wind was howling as he went through the downstairs and turned on the lights. He wasn't actually afraid of the dark, he thought. He just hated being in it. You know, for safety's sake. Less tripping that way. The cabin was warm and welcoming. He'd been coming here since before he could even remember, and he loved it. He quickly made 2 egg sandwiches, grabbed a beer, then another so he wouldn't have to get back up, pulled the recliner close to the stove, which had the candle lit still on it as it slowly melted, the flame flickering with a small amount of wind allowed to breathlessly breathe through the cabin from the wind outside. He grabbed a wool blanket his grandma had made. She kept it in the trunk his grandpa had carved. He poured a hot cup of coffee and placed it at the end table. He dragged that over to his little cozy space. And he had it made, he thought. He sat down in the soft, inviting recliner. He leaned back and thought, hell, I may just sleep right here, forgetting that there was a good possibility that he'd be spending the weekend with some far-flung cousins. He opened the paper and began to read. He chugged the first beer, and it relaxed his shoulders and calmed his thoughts. Thinking about Bea and her backwoods ways was becoming further and further away. Maybe he'd been a jerk. After all, He knew about her quirks when they married. How fair was it to make her change now? Oh, look. His mind quickly changed gears as he noticed an article in the newspaper. Down with the second beer and half of his coffee. He was beginning to feel a bit sleepy now. He stood up to grab another beer and turned the lights off. Didn't look like anyone was coming back. Dumbass, he said out loud. Leaving a fire and a lit candle? Really? He made a mental note to speak with his parents. The lights flickered and went out with a strange clap. All at once. Damn. A breaker? He wondered as he instinctively looked out the window of the front door, pulling back the small curtain as if he'd be able to see anyone else that maybe had lost electricity. But there it was. A small light. Over there. Where is that, he wondered. The Adams cabin? The McClintocks? His eyes adjusted, and he still couldn't quite tell. Must be able to see because it's beginning to turn fall. Midsummer, the trees would be much too thick to see a neighbor's light. If possible, it was raining even harder than before. The wind was howling its eerie howl into the night sky, wrapping itself around the cabin, rain pounding on the side windows. Must be a fuse, he thought. Perfect. He debated letting it go until morning and just using the fire and candles like his grandparents had. In the end, he decided to run out and flick the switch. He got his boots and coat on, grabbed a flashlight from his bag, took a deep breath. Okay, pussy, let's go. He opened the door and began to run. He barely heard the screen door bang shut as he rounded the corner of the deck. He put one hand on the rail and jumped over like he'd done 1,000 times before, except then he'd been a teenager and it wasn't raining. His hand slipped on the rail, and as he came down, he twisted it and felt the pain shoot through his entire body. Crap! He yelled as he landed, but kept running to the fuse box. He opened it, his hand and wrist burning and throbbing. He used his left hand for the flashlight and looked in. Cabin lights was listed, written on a piece of tape. He went to flick the switch, but noticed there was no fuse. What? He thought. He pointed the flashlight to the dirt and shone it on the rocks and all around the leaves, pine needles. Nothing. The howling was deafening. His wrist was thumping with its heartbeat from the pain. Forget this, he thought. Candles and a fire are good enough. He ran back to the cabin, taking the stairs this time, one at a time. It looked eerie and dark now. A shiver ran down his spine as a thought ran through his mind just for a second. Did someone take the fuse? He flung open the door, and the door slammed shut, and he leaned against it. Oh, my hand, he said. You're not a 12-year-old kid anymore, idiot. He chastised himself. He used his flashlight and went to the bathroom to get a wrap for his hand. Then he grabbed the beer. For the pain, he said, to no one. The fire was nearly out. Doug grabbed a couple pieces of wood, stoked the fire, and threw them in. He sat in the recliner, put the flashlight on the fireplace, pointing towards himself, and began to wrap his hand. The fire was crackling as Doug looked up from his hand to look at it. That's when he noticed that the candle was gone. Yeah, gone. His mind replayed all the events from the evening. No, he hadn't moved the candle. He flashed the flashlight around the room and into the kitchen. Couldn't see it. What the heck, he was saying when he heard it. the noise. It was mixed in with the howling of the wind, but much different. Screaming, squeaking, crying, but added in something from hell, and it scared him. His body became stiff. He looked at the front door and it was unlocked. He went to jump up to lock it. Something in the core of his being told him to lock the door. But he didn't make it. Something hard hit him on his temple with the force of a horse kicking. He felt as though his head may go rolling off his shoulders and onto the ground, and blood running over his eyes. He started to lift his bandaged hand to his head, but he felt faint. The flashlight lighting up the floor as his brain began to fade. Then, something horrific, something monstrous, walked into the light of the flashlight. Its shadow made huge in the light. Doug's brain couldn't process it. As he began to pass out, he heard the scream again, and was that Bee's voice? Then there, the noise. Squealing. Early the next morning, Bee called the police from the cabin. When they arrived, she was hysterical. She was holding her large belly and rambling incoherently. The police took her to a recliner, which was in the corner of a room. "Ma'am, please put your legs up. Take some deep breaths and tell us what happened." Okay. My husband, Doug, and I were coming to the cabin to, spend some relaxed time before the baby comes. They call it a baby moon. And she looked down at her belly. We arrived about 7:30 and we lit a fire. He had several beers, just to relax. We watched the fire and we were reading the newspaper. He made my favorite pregnancy food, even though he hates them. Fried egg sandwiches. Then the power went out. I told him, just leave it until the storm passes, but he insisted that he didn't want me to walk around in a dark cabin like a trip. He went out in the storm and... Oh my God. Am I saying this? I haven't seen him since. She began to cry hysterically again. "Ma'am, you have family out here, correct?" Yes, but they disowned me when I married Doug. You see, he's not, well, they're a special breed of people, officer. Doug just didn't understand their country ways. Would they hurt him? The officer asked. Oh, heavens, no. Oh, sir. They wouldn't even hurt a pinky toe on him. Well, we're gonna have to speak to them. Of course, officer. She dabbed her eyes with a tissue. After the police left, Bee went into the bathroom and lifted her dress to reveal her large belly. She could see the kicking child inside her, and encircling her belly was a circle of red blood. Dried, dark red blood. There, little one. You'll be just fine. Bee's mother had come down the stairs and stood behind her, placing her hand on her daughter's belly. Wonk. She made a noise. "Ugh," answered her daughter. When the police searched the family farm, they walked right past the hog pen. If they'd had looked even a little, they would have seen an ace bandage. Thank you for coming to my channel. If you like this story, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel. If you'd like to be notified of my new content, please go ahead and click that bell. Good night.